Hello, and welcome to another episode of the B2B Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Nils Vinje, and today I've brought along Spencer Polk. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Nils.
Spencer, I brought you along today so you could talk a little bit about your experience in the B2B Leaders Academy. You've been with us for a while. You've been an exceptional member, getting some great results, and I wanted just to have a quick conversation about what your experience has been like. And before we get into what that has been like, I would love for you to share a little bit about just your role today. And then I'm going to ask you about what kind of experience you had previously with any kind of leadership or management training.
Yeah, so my role today, my title is Software Development Manager. What I do is I lead a team of developers to implement, test, and deliver features that are valuable to our clients and maintain code reliability and functionality.
Perfect. Okay, so in this role as software development manager, had you been through a leadership training or management training prior to joining the B2B Leaders Academy?
When I first got the role, a bunch of us were moved to management at the same time. We did a 2-day, 8 hours a day seminar to do some initial training. And other than that, I have not done any formal management training at all.
Okay, so 2 days, 8 hours a day. That sounds like a lot crammed into a very short amount of time. What was that experience like, one, going through it, and then we'll talk about what the ultimate results were of that.
Well, like you say, cramming everything into a 2-day seminar, especially when there's no hands-on experience to apply anything you're learning in the seminar, it makes it very difficult to retain the information from it and really get a whole lot out of it, because there's no back and forth with the instruction. I can't take something, apply it, see what works and what doesn't, and then come back and get feedback and improve it. We just need to go like all the way through. And as a result, I didn't really get a whole lot out of that overall, I would say.
Yeah, so you invested 2 days of your time, but then ultimately didn't get much result from that as a result of just trying to cram too much in a short period of time and not being able to implement and iterate on it. Is that right?
That's a good way to describe it, yeah.
Okay, cool. So then you had an opportunity to join the B2B Leaders Academy, and we take a different approach from the traditional, cram you in with full of stuff for 2 days. So why don't you share a little bit about your experience coming into the Academy and what you saw as being different and how it worked for you?
Well, what immediately struck me is the fact that the way the B2B Leadership Academy works is we have the individual modules that we do over a 30-day period. And from a higher level, the main thing is that it's self-directed and there's collaborative elements to it. And you work on one part at a time, refine that, figure out what works and apply it and go from there. And from that, I was able to very quickly get a lot more out of it.
Good. So in that self-directed and collaborative elements, what was important to you about the self-directed piece?
There were two main things that stood out to me. The first is that the first thing that I did was to do the initial leadership matrix and identify where I had weak points from my own perception. Then I was able to focus on the parts where I felt like I was having the most trouble. I would actually say that when I joined, bulletproofing my leadership psychology was the main thing I was having trouble with, and that 2-day thing didn't even touch on that. We were just immediately jumping into like, here's how to be a manager. That's it, sort of thing. That's the one thing that like I can pick what I need to work on based on what's going on in my life, where I see my weaknesses and how I want to improve. And the other thing is I'm not taking a huge chunk of knowledge and then carrying it with me and saying like, well, this didn't work, but I mean, it was a 2-day thing. I can't speak to that instructor anymore. And so I can't like refine and reflect. Whereas with mastermind sessions and the monthly checkpoints, we have the ability to refine it and get feedback on sort of how we're refining it, as well as work with others going through the program.
Great. Yeah. And the whole premise of the Academy was built around the fact that, one, as a leader, guaranteed 100% you're already busy. I know that. And I don't pretend that that's a surprise by any stretch. And so the goal was really, how do we build something that can give you the tools in the areas that you need help with and integrate into your life, just like you described. So that's wonderful that you got that straight out of the gate. Now, the collaborative elements you mentioned there were also really helpful to help reinforce some of those things. So share a little bit about what your experience was like with the mastermind sessions, and what did you bring to those? What did you take away? And what kind of value overall did you get from them?
The mastermind sessions, to be honest, I actually got the most value, I would say, out of the mastermind sessions, because working with others who are working to improve something and collaborating with them, it's actually, as a developer, it's kind of similar to how we do like pair programming or iterative sessions or brainstorming or something like that. Being able to take a management problem that some of them were at the time, some of them were things that I didn't think I handled well in the past, or that I didn't know if I handled well in the past, and bring it to a group where we can discuss them, brainstorm on them. That was really valuable, not just for like how to do things, but also, again, when I entered the program, I had a lot of self-doubt about things, and seeing that I was able to contribute to those discussions with my peers and other companies was really, really important for my own confidence. I no longer felt like I was thrown into the pool. Am I swimming? I'm swimming, I think, but am I actually have all these deficits? Like that kind of thought process. And the mastermind sessions were so good at getting around that, and also letting me dig into really, really specific things that you'd never get to. And even if it was like a 2-week sort of thing, some of the things that we were able to do in the mastermind session, I don't think there'd be time for it even in that kind of context.
That's wonderful, and just makes me so happy, because that was the premise also of what was created, was that you're not alone in going through the challenges that you're facing as a software development manager. And there's somebody else in our community, or many other people in our community, who are in organizations that have nothing to do with yours, the size, the scope, the industry, but they still struggle with the exact same things. And when you can get their input on your challenges and share your expertise on theirs, everybody wins. And I think that's one of the most powerful things of why masterminds exist in the world today, and how we can leverage them to complement the specific training pieces that are there. So if you have a focus and you're going down that, you get the training, and then you're putting things into action, but you're still coming up against roadblocks. The mastermind is there to support you every step of the way. And that's, you worked the plan beautifully. Like, I'll just say that. And you always implemented and always came to those sessions with a win, because we like to share wins at the beginning of our mastermind sessions as a way to mark progress. What was it like sharing the wins? I know sometimes not everybody feels 100% comfortable, and it can be a little challenging, but what did you think about the wins piece at the beginning of the mastermind sessions?
Similar to what I was saying about knowing that I'm not just out doing my own thing and with not really much support, what it made me do is it made me consider that I do have wins. So even if I am a person who sometimes gets like, if something doesn't go well, I'm like sitting in my chair, kind of like ruminating on the bad. But having to come up with the win and reminding myself, like, yes, there are wins every week, and I can focus on those wins. And again, that also helps me with the psychology aspect of it, and like keeping an attitude that I am progressing and I can do what I do. So that was the main benefit I found I got out of that.
Good. The progress is really the key piece, right? And any learning, any skill, whether it's leadership or anything else, the number one key, and the reason why you or any individual will continue to move forward and continue to stay committed, is progress. People only quit anything when they stop making progress. But as long as you're making progress, you'll never quit. Because even if it's small, little tiny increments. Here's an example. Like, I work out with a tonal system. It's one of those digital weight things that attaches to the wall. Absolutely beautiful system. And one of the absolute greatest feature of tonal is that you can increment the weight that you are lifting by 1 pound. That's it, 1 pound. A traditional gym, it's usually 5-pound increments, or sometimes 2.5 on some of the lower end of the dumbbells and things like that. But when you get up into, doing various exercises, bench press, shoulder press, etc., it's only big jumps that can happen. And tonal makes it really easy to always be making progress. I've been working out, for 1.5 years with it now. And I have consistently always improved and increased the amount of weight that I moved in a session, even though it might have only been by a couple pounds. That's it. But it made it there, and it makes me want to keep coming back, and there's not too big of a leap. So I see that in what you're saying there is that bringing that progress to the forefront and saying, what did I make progress on this week that I could share as a win with a community of people who are also sharing their wins, that's going to help me feel good and make sure I keep on making progress.
It's interesting you use the weightlifting as an example there, because a quote I've always liked is stronger than yesterday, which is to mean like, okay, I might not be the best at this. If I go and compare myself to other people in something, I'm going to get demotivated, but I can focus on the fact that have I improved? If I have improved, that is a success. That is good. I don't need to go and think like, but this person over here did this. And I mean, there's all sorts of stuff I don't know about that. So
that's right. Yeah. Stronger than yesterday is a brilliant quote. I'm going to have to use that and give you full credit, of course. But that's it, right? That's what we're all about. And as we talk about, leadership is a long-term game. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that perspective now, after having gone through this and having made consistent progress over many, many, many months. What do you think about looking at your leadership career in the future, and how just, making consistent, stronger than yesterday type of progress every week is going to help you?
Well, what I think the main thing it's going to help me in long term, taking this perspective, is there have been some times I'm not going to be immune to this sort of thing where I kind of like stall out on myself and I kind of ruminate too much, or I catastrophize in my thinking a bit. And keeping that perspective and being able to look over the course, just like if I look at my notes over the past year at some point, I can say like, look, there were improvements through this. I can take the stance of, I am upset about this current issue. What is the first step I can take to remedy that issue? And along with that, some of the stuff that you focus on, like being the CEO of your career, that's been interesting, because at the start, I was like, yeah, of course I'm the CEO of my career. And as I've gotten further into it, I've kind of been like, I need to think a bit more about my needs, like it's gone that way a little bit.
I want to dig in. I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to dig into that, because it is one of those topics that often gets a little bit of a, wait, what? Hang on, CEO of career? And I remember we had some discussions early on about what it really meant to be the CEO of your career. So would you share now kind of what is your perspective on that sentiment and that level of ownership, that you're in charge of where you go and what you do, and you will always be able to add value to your company, whoever you work for at any point in time. But what do you really think about that now as compared to maybe over a year ago, prior to the program, what you might have thought then?
I see there being kind of two sides to it in my mind that I focus on. And the first is a reminder that if I want something and I want to improve something, or if I want to make a change to my role, or I want to advance, that the ball is in my court. I will go to my manager and I will expect that my manager and other people at the company will support me, but I still need to say, hey, I want that. I can't just sit and say like, well, surely sooner or later, someone will pick up on the fact that, I'm surely due for a promotion someday. No, I need to make it clear that I'm interested in that and take the proactive steps to get there. The other side of it is to remind myself that I sometimes have, I think, an issue with feeling too strong of a sense of obligation, where like, okay, why am I doing something? I'm contributing value to the company, yes, but taking this sort of stiff upper lip approach of like tolerating something that's actually causing me like issues. And there have been times in the past where I've certainly done that and like taken that like stoic approach. And that's also something that I had to give some serious thought to when I was going over the material, is if something is bothering me, or if I don't want to do something, or I want to go a different direction, I also need to remind myself that I have the right to do that. Yeah. I'm going to be contributing value. Okay, not no matter what, but pretty much like as long as I'm working constructively, if there's something that I'm not enjoying or that I'm finding like or is causing me stress, we can work with that and I can make changes.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's it. That's the element of control. And I love that you called out the proactivity. Right? Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to chart your course for you. Nobody can decide that because they're not you. They don't know what's on the other side of you. They don't know your hopes, your dreams, your fears. They don't know what really makes you tick. And it is within every single individual to become the CEO of their career. I had to go through that transition. It was extremely painful for me because the first 7+ years or almost 10 years of my professional career, I was not the CEO of my career. And I floundered like all over the place. And I never got promoted. It was when I reflect back on it, I see now why. Because I was always waiting for somebody else to tell me what to do. And I always asked other people for, what should I do? Where should I go? You know the company, you know me, what should I do? And once I was confronted with this question, it was a very powerful environment. Won't get into that story, but I was confronted with this question. The answer was no, I'm not the CEO of my career. And right there in that moment, in that seat, when I was asked that question, I got angry and I made the commitment to never again not be the CEO of my career. And ever since then, it's been a completely different ballgame. That was literally, I can pinpoint that as one of the most pivotal moments in my career because I took control, right? And did exactly what you said, got proactive, was the one who then charted the course and who decided what to invest in to obtain the skills, where to focus, just like you shared earlier, and then put all those things in so that ultimately, end all be all, is I was able to add more value to my organizations. And as a result, I earned promotions, right? As conceptually simple and infinitely complex, that's it. So, Spencer, looking out, over the next 1 to 2 years, like again, leadership's a long-term game. What's next for you? Having gone from where you were, from that 2-day event where it was cram you full of a bunch of stuff and not a lot retained, to spending a long time with us in the academy, right? And taking a systematic monthly approach to focus on different leadership skills and topics, and then getting support from the community. What's next for you?
One of the things that going through the program has helped me with, and this does relate to what we were just talking about, is before this, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, and I was like, I got to keep my head above water. I don't know if I'm good at this, but I need to keep doing it no matter what anyway. Now that I've been through the program, I'm taking a more proactive light and ways that I want to develop my career and what I want to focus on. I definitely still want to improve my leadership skills and refine what I've learned here and how it works in a development team with the kind of company culture we have. I take certain aspects of things, try it with my team. Sometimes I need to tweak it because every group is of course different in certain ways. But just giving some thought here. I'd say that one of the things that I want to make sure of is there are certain things that I used to do before I was in my current role that I enjoyed quite a bit. And there are things that I've realized that things at Mindbridge have changed a little bit. And I don't have necessarily the same connections around the company that I used to. And I kind of been like, okay, well, I have the ability to shape my own role in progression, to reclaim some of the stuff that I liked that maybe doesn't fit with my current day-to-day, and take some proactive steps in terms of my position within the company as I grow my own career. I don't know for sure what what the next 2 years are exactly going to look like, but my current plan is to kind of when I came into this, like I said, I was all just I got to stay swimming. That was my mindset. Now I'm like, okay, I know I can swim now. Now I'm going to choose where I'm going to swim. So I'm not 100% certain on everything, but that's sort of where my mindset is right now and where I'm intending to go in the next couple of years.
Well, it's a tremendous improvement in the confidence area. I've seen it firsthand in our calls, watched the transformation as you've gone through. It makes me just feel so good to have shared some of this experience with you. And I love that. You don't have, and that's the best part. In the grand scheme, again, leadership's long-term game. We don't have to know exactly what the next year looks like, but you hit the nail on the head, which is, I know now I have confidence and I know I can add value in anything that I do. Therefore, I'm going to have a totally different way to look at this. It's not, am I swimming correctly? It's where do I want to apply my swimming? Right? Where do I want to go next? And your organization's going to benefit from that. Your team is going to benefit from that. You are going to benefit from that. And ultimately, the world's a better place because you are in a much more confident leadership position, leading your team and leading inside your company as well. That's awesome.
Yeah. Looking forward to what's coming next.
Awesome. Okay, so last question here. If somebody was listening to this and kind of on the fence or had heard about the B2B Leaders Academy and was like, it sounds interesting, what advice would you share with them if they were on the fence, thinking about joining, but not 100% sure if this might be right for them?
I would just think about phrasing that for a moment. I'd say that the fact that I'm thinking about someone who's on the fence about something, often that would be the kind of person who maybe would benefit from some of the lessons that you teach and also working with some of the group. Like I just said, we don't always know exactly what we're trying to do or where we're going for sure. But if someone's in the position where they're like, I don't know if this is going to help me or not, I'd say that ask yourself seriously, do you have some of that kind of like self-doubt or that confidence issue? And I would say that I did not think that 2-day seminar helped my confidence at all. Actually, I'd say it kind of hurt it, because as we got to the latter part of that, we were doing some very difficult role-playing stuff, and I like froze up, felt the blood rush to my face, because like, how am I going to deal with this? What if I go in 2 weeks and I have to do it in reality now? I can't freeze up in front of like the entire office and like going through that kind of thing. Whereas the B2B Leadership Academy gives you an environment to kind of explore what you want to do. So if someone's on the fence, I'd say that, ask yourself what you want. And if you're not confident in that, it is a program that can help.
Wonderful. Awesome. Wonderful advice. And just that scene that you just described there is so powerful. And I've been through it myself, having been through a few of those seminars where, all of a sudden it's just massive overwhelm. Because one, you're being crammed full of lots of strategies that are out of context and in a classroom kind of environment and completely fictitious examples. But two, then the fear is, wait, I have to do all of this when I go back to my desk, and I can't ask anybody else for help and questions, and what happens, and does anybody else struggle with these feelings? And maybe everybody else got it, and I'm the only one who doesn't get it. And it's just such a hard environment. And that's where leadership training has been for a very, very long period of time, which is why it has to change. Like, there is no doubt about it. It cannot continue in that kind of a fashion in hope to achieve great results like you just described, right? Building confidence, bulletproofing your leadership psychology, all of the elements of the program that you've been through and gotten results on consistently over many, many months just can't happen in a crash course 2 days. It's just not possible. So we have to look at a much longer time horizon, which again is why we take the long-term view. And we know that if we're helping to build leadership skills, all things are going to be good down the line. All right, Spencer. Well, it's been a blast talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And you've been an outstanding member inside the B2B Leaders Academy. I can't wait to see what comes next for you. And just been wonderful to have a hand in your leadership development journey. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on.